The door of my old cabin slammed open with a thunderous crack, splintering the peaceful hum of the lake waves lapping against the dock. There she stood, Mrs. Evelyn Hargrove, everyone called her Karen, behind her back clutching a clipboard like a weapon. Her perfectly coiffed hair unmoving in the crisp autumn breeze that carried the scent of pine needles and damp earth. "This property is in violation," she barked, her voice slicing through the air like a chainsaw revving up. "The HOA demands access to the lake, and your little shack is blocking the way. Pack up, or we'll make you." My heart pounded in my chest, a mix of rage and disbelief surging through me like wildfire. This wasn't just any cabin. It was my grandfather's legacy, the one place where the world made sense. And now this entitled busybody was trying to rip it away for some gated community's convenience. I froze on the porch, the rough wooden railing digging into my palms as I gripped it tighter. The sun dipped low over Lake Whisper, casting long shadows that danced across the water like ghosts of better days. I'd inherited this spot 5 years ago after Grandpa passed a modest A-frame cabin nestled on a sliver of private land, the only direct access to the lake for miles. The HOA from the sprawling development up the hill had been eyeing it ever since they built their McMansions, whining about how my eyesore ruined their views. But seizing it, that was a new low. Karen's heels clicked sharply on the gravel path as she marched forward, thrusting papers at me. "Eminent domain proceedings start next week. Your family's squatting days are over." Squatting. The word hit me like a slap, my breath catching in my throat. This land had been in my family for generations. Bought fair and square in the 1920s when the lake was just a fishing hole, not a playground for the rich. I slammed the door in her face, the echo reverberating through the empty rooms inside, where the faint smell of old books and wood smoke lingered from last night's fire. Leaning against the wall, I let out a long, shaky sigh, my mind racing. How had it come to this? It started innocently enough, a petition from the HOA board about community enhancements. Then came the letters, the surveys, the veiled threats. Karen, as president, led the charge, her social media posts dripping with passive-aggressive venom. Time to clean up the neighborhood for everyone's benefit. But I knew the real story. Their fancy houses backed onto the hill, no direct lake path, and my cabin sat right in the sweet spot. They wanted to bulldoze it for a shared dock, turning my sanctuary into their party spot. The thought made my stomach churn, a bitter taste rising in my mouth like bile. That night, as rain pattered softly against the tin roof, a soothing rhythm that usually lulled me to sleep, I paced the creaky floors, the cool hardwood chilling my bare feet. Memories flooded back. Grandpa teaching me to fish at dawn, the splash of the line hitting the water, the triumphant whoop when we reeled in a base. "This is our piece of heaven, Jake," he'd say, his voice gravelly from years of pipe tobacco. Now, it was under siege. I grabbed my phone, fingers trembling as I dialed my old friend, Tom, a local attorney who'd handled Grandpa's estate. "They're coming for the cabin," I whispered, my voice cracking. Tom's response was immediate, a low growl over the line. "Not on my watch. We'll fight this." But doubt gnawed at me, a quiet whisper in the back of my mind. What if we lost? The HOA had deep pockets, lawyers on retainer, and Karen's unyielding zeal. The next morning, fog rolled off the lake like a living thing, muffling the distant call of loons as I drove into town. The air was thick with the earthy scent of wet soil, and my truck's tires crunched over fallen leaves. At the county clerk's office, I pored over dusty records, my eyes stinging from the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. That's when the unexpected HIDA yellow deed from 1923, tucked away in a forgotten file. It wasn't just a purchase. It included an easement clause that explicitly barred any shared access without family consent. My pulse quickened, a spark of hope igniting amid the despair. But there was more, a handwritten note from Grandpa's father about a long-forgotten dispute with the original developers. This wasn't just land. It was history, tangled with old grudges. As I left the office, clutching the copies like a lifeline, I bumped into an elderly woman in the hallway, Mrs. Lila Beaumont, her frail frame leaning on a cane, her eyes sharp as tacks despite the wrinkles. "You're the Miller boy, aren't you?" she rasped, her voice carrying the faint tremor of age. I nodded, surprised. She wasn't from around here, or so I thought. Turns out, Lila was Karen's estranged aunt, kicked out of the family years ago over some inheritance spat. "That niece of mine is a viper," she confided over coffee at the diner, the clink of spoons against mugs punctuating her words, the aroma of fresh brewed joe mixed with sizzling bacon, grounding me in the moment. Lila spilled secrets. Karen had falsified HOA meeting minutes to push the seizure, bribing a surveyor for a biased report. She's always been about control. Lila sighed, her breath hitching. "But I've got proof mails, recordings. Use them." It was a bombshell, this unexpected ally, adding layers to the fight. "Why now?" Lila's eyes welled up. "Redemption, dear. For what she did to me." Armed with this, my emotions swung like a pendulum, elation at the new ammo, fury at the deceit. Back at the cabin, I spread the documents on the kitchen table, the wood scarred from years of family meals. The wind howled outside, rattling the windows like an angry spirit. Tom reviewed everything, his laughter booming over the phone. "This is gold, Jake. Fraudulent claims. We'll bury them." But Karen didn't back down. She escalated, showing up with a crew of workers, chainsaws revving menacingly. "Clear the path," she ordered, her face flushed with triumph. I stepped out, heart thundering, the metallic tang of fear in my mouth. Touch one tree, and I'll call the sheriff. The standoff was electric, tension crackling in the air like static before a storm. Workers hesitated, tools idling with a low rumble. Karen's eyes narrowed, a vein pulsing in her forehead. "You'll regret this," she hissed, her voice dripping venom. The lawsuit hit like a tidal wave. We filed countersuit for harassment, fraud, and emotional distress, demanding millions in damages. The courtroom in the old county building smelled of polished oak and stale coffee, the wooden benches creaking under the weight of spectators. Whispers rippled through the crowd as Karen took the stand, her designer suit crisp, but her hands betraying a slight tremble. Tom grilled her relentlessly. "Did you alter those minutes, Mrs. Hargrove?" Her denials cracked under pressure, her voice rising to a shrill pitch. Then Lila testified, her cane tapping rhythmically as she approached the witness box. The gasp from Karen was audible, a sharp intake of breath that echoed in the hushed room. "She's lying." Karen exploded, but the evidence those damning emails projected on the screen sealed her fate. My chest tightened, a whirlwind of vindication and pity swirling inside. Pity for her, but seeing her unravel, the mask slipping to reveal desperation, humanized the monster just a bit. The judge's gavel came down with a resounding thud, the sound reverberating like justice itself. The HOA's claim is dismissed. Furthermore, due to proven fraud and malicious intent, the court awards the plaintiff $3 million in compensatory and punitive damages. Cheers erupted, but I just sat there, exhaling a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. The lake breeze seemed to whisper through the open window, carrying the faint scent of freedom. Karen slumped in her seat, her empire crumbling, face pale as the reality sank in bankruptcy loomed, her reputation in tatters. As I walked out into the sunlight, the warmth on my skin a stark contrast to the chill of battle, Lila squeezed my arm. "You did it, boy. For all of us." Back at the cabin that evening, as the sun set in a blaze of orange and pink over the lake, I stood on the dock, the water gently slapping against the pilings. The fight had drained me, but it reignited something deep, a fierce protectiveness for what was mine. A reminder that standing up against bullies, no matter how powerful, could tip the scales. Grandpa's voice echoed in my mind. Hold on to what's real, Jake. And in that moment, with the loons calling across the water and the world feeling a little more just, I knew the true victory wasn't the money, it was the unyielding spirit that said no to greed, proving that one person's resolve could echo through generations, inspiring others to fight for their own piece of heaven. The end wasn't bitter just for Karen. It was a sweet, hard-won affirmation that justice, though slow, hits like a storm when it arrives.